I'll never forget the exact moment Karen's face froze. That smug, self-satisfied grin she'd been wearing all afternoon vanished the second she realized she'd just called the police on a regulatory attorney. It was almost comical, the way that confidence melted away like ice cream sliding down hot pavement. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To truly understand how this all unraveled, let me take you back to the beginning. The day one woman's power trip triggered the downfall of an entire HOA. The moving truck had barely rolled to a stop in front of my daughter Emily's brand new townhouse when I first saw her. Karen Peaton, as I'd later come to know, was already standing stiff on her perfectly maintained lawn, arms crossed tightly over her chest, lips pursed like she'd just sucked on a lemon. I had driven 4 hours to help Emily move into her first home. We hadn't even opened the rear door of the truck before Trouble strutted across the street in designer sandals and a blinding pink tracksuit. "Excuse me?" she barked in a voice sharp enough to strip paint. "You can't park that truck here without the proper permits from the HOA board." Emily stepped forward, still beaming from the excitement of closing on her first place. She extended a friendly hand. "Hi, I'm Emily Dawson. I just closed on Unit 47 yesterday." Karen didn't even glance at her hand. "I don't care who you are," she said coldly. "That truck violates community standards. Commercial vehicles require authorization forms filed 72 hours in advance. That's the rule." I set the box in my arms down carefully and kept my tone level. "We're just unloading some furniture and boxes. We'll be out of here in a couple of hours." Karen whipped out her phone like a deputy reaching for a badge. Click. "Illegal activity in progress," she narrated to herself, snapping photos of the truck from every angle. "Unapproved commercial vehicle. Possible damage to common areas." Each flash seemed to dim Emily's bright new home energy a little more. "Ma'am, I live here now." Emily tried again, her smile faltering. "That's my dad. He's just helping me move in." Karen's eyes narrowed into slits. "I'm the HOA president. I know every resident in Oakwood Commons, and you're not on my list." She flipped open a leather-bound notebook like some kind of self-appointed sheriff. "Let's see." "No, Emily Dawson. No Unit 47 closing. That means you're trespassing." I recognized the type instantly. 25 years in regulatory law had taught me to spot petty tyrants, people who confuse a sliver of authority with absolute power. "My daughter closed yesterday," I said evenly. "The paperwork may not have reached you yet." Karen's face flushed a blotchy red. "Are you calling me incompetent?" she hissed. "I've run this HOA for 8 years without a single complaint." That was her first lie, though I didn't know it then. "Nobody's calling you anything," I replied calmly, lifting another box from the truck. "We're just trying to get her moved in." Karen stepped directly into my path like a sentry at a checkpoint. "Put that box down immediately." "I haven't inspected it for prohibited items." Emily stared at her, baffled. "Prohibited items?" "Dad, it's literally my kitchen stuff." Karen jabbed a finger toward her. "Certain appliances require board approval. Microwaves over 1,000 watts, blenders exceeding 70 decibels. It's all in the covenant." She was clearly making it up on the spot. But at that point, all I wanted was to help my daughter settle in, not escalate a petty neighborhood drama. "Look," I said, stepping carefully around her. "We're not trying to start trouble. Let us unload today, and Emily can handle whatever paperwork tomorrow." That's when she made her grand move, or at least what she thought was a power play. She pulled out her phone again and dialed 911. "Hello, police? This is Karen Peaton, president of the Oakwood Commons HOA," she said, loud enough for the whole street to hear. "I need to report suspicious individuals unloading unknown items into one of our units." "Yes, I believe they're trespassing. One is an older man with out-of-state plates. Very threatening demeanor." I almost laughed out loud at the threatening demeanor. I was wearing khakis and a polo shirt. If anything, I looked like a substitute teacher. Emily, however, looked uneasy. "Dad, should we stop?" "I don't want trouble on my first day." I squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We're not doing anything wrong." "Let her call," Karen smirked, clearly thinking she'd already won. "The police take HOA violations very seriously in this town," she bragged. "I play golf with the chief every Sunday." Another lie. She parked herself next to the truck like a security guard, blocking us from unloading another box while we waited. From behind curtains and blinds, curious neighbors peeked out. I got the sense this wasn't the first time they'd seen Karen put on a show. About 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars arrived, lights flashing softly in the afternoon sun. Karen practically skipped over to them, waving her arms like she was directing air traffic, clearly spinning some exaggerated tale. The officers approached us with carefully neutral expressions. "Sir, we received a report of trespassing and suspicious activity," the lead officer said. His badge read Sergeant Morrison. I gave him a polite nod. "Officer, I'm just helping my daughter move into her new home. She closed on Unit 47 yesterday. I'm Jake Dawson. This is Emily." I handed him my driver's license. The younger officer, Ramirez, studied me with a hint of recognition. "Dawson, Jake Dawson. Wait, aren't you the attorney who took down that HOA in Riverside last year? The embezzlement case?" I gave a small, calm smile. "That would be me. I specialize in regulatory law and HOA governance issues." Sergeant Morrison's brows lifted in genuine surprise. "No kidding. My sister lived in that neighborhood. You saved them from a corrupt board." Sergeant Morrison handed back my license with a firm nod before turning toward Karen. "Ma'am, these people aren't trespassing. The daughter owns the unit." Karen's face cycled through several shades of red. But they didn't file the proper permits." "That truck is illegal. They're violating numerous covenants." Officer Ramirez flipped open his notepad. "And which specific laws are they breaking, ma'am?" Karen sputtered, clearly not used to being challenged. "HOA rules are legally binding. They need board approval for moving vehicles." Morrison let out a tired sigh. "Ma'am, HOA rules don't override property rights. They own the unit. They can move in. Unless they're actually violating a law, not just a covenant, there's nothing we can do." That was the moment I made up my mind. "Officers," I said calmly, "since you're already here, I'd like to file a complaint. This woman is harassing us and actively blocking access to my daughter's property." Karen's jaw fell open. "You can't file a complaint against me. I'm the HOA president." Ramirez's pen hovered over the page. "Actually, he can." "Are you preventing them from entering their property?" Karen instantly backpedaled. "I'm just ensuring compliance with community standards." Morrison had heard enough. "Ma'am, let them move in. If there are any covenant violations, deal with them through proper HOA channels. But don't ever call 911 for something like this again." He turned back to me. "Mr. Dawson, you're free to continue. If she gives you any more trouble, call us directly." As the patrol cars pulled away, I caught something in Karen's eyes. Not defeat, but defiance. A warning would have told her to let it go. Instead, she straightened up and doubled down. "This isn't over," she hissed. "I'll be reviewing every single item you bring into this community. One violation, and you're out." I calmly set down the box in my hands and reached for my phone. "Actually, Karen," I said with the kind of smile I usually save for the courtroom, "I think I'll be reviewing a few things too. Starting with your HOA's governing documents, financial records, and election procedures." Her confidence faltered. "Those are private HOA documents." "Not in this state," I replied evenly. "HOA records are subject to member review. And my daughter," I gestured toward Emily, "is now a member." Emily watched, wide-eyed. She'd heard stories of my legal battles, but never seen me in action. Over the next 3 days, as she unpacked boxes and arranged furniture, I got to work. The first red flag popped up immediately. The HOA website hadn't been updated in 3 years. The second, no trace of published financial statements. The third, no one seemed to know when the last real board election had taken place. I spent that week knocking on doors, introducing myself as Emily's father. What I heard from the neighbors spilled out like water from a cracked dam. Illegal fines for lawns half an inch too long, penalties for unauthorized flower colors, emergency assessments that disappeared into a black hole of administrative costs. And every single person told me the same thing. Karen had been president for 8 years without a single election. Mrs. Patterson in Unit 12 showed me a $500 fine because her grandchildren had parked their bikes on her porch. Mr. Singh, in Unit 30, was charged with flying an American flag, without the proper patriotic display permit. Hop Johnson's in Unit 19 had forked over $1,000. in emergency assessments that never resulted in a single visible improvement. But the real game changer came from Richard Thornton, a retired accountant in Unit 6. "I tried to review the books 2 years ago," he told me over coffee. "Karen said they were being audited. Then she said they were at the accountant. Then she just stopped returning my calls." He slid a folder across the table. "I've been keeping track of what I could find. The numbers don't add up. I spent hours going through his meticulous records. Missing funds, suspicious transfers, and worst of all, no legitimate board election since 2016. Karen had simply crowned herself president after the old board resigned and ruled unchecked ever since. By the end of the week, I had enough evidence to topple a small government, but I waited for the perfect opening. It arrived when Emily got her first violation notice, unauthorized window treatments. Apparently, her curtains were the wrong shade of white. That was it. I called for an emergency HOA meeting. The community center was packed to capacity. Word had spread. Someone was finally challenging Karen. She sat alone at the board table, her usual cronies nowhere to be seen. I placed a thick stack of documents on the table with a satisfying thud. "I moved to audit the HOA's financial records for the past 8 years, I began. Karen banged a cheap wooden gavel she'd clearly bought for herself. "You're out of order! Only board members can make motions," I smiled. "Actually, according to your own bylaws, which I have right here, any member in good standing can propose motions at open meetings." Page 47, Section 3, she fumbled through her copy, clearly unfamiliar with the rules she claimed to enforce. "Furthermore," I continued, "I move for immediate board elections, since there haven't been any since 2016, murmurs rippled through the crowd. "That's impossible!" Karen shrieked. "I've been duly elected every year." "By whom?" I asked calmly. "Where are the ballots? The vote tallies? The election notices?" I held up another stack of papers. "I've obtained records from the Secretary of State. No HOA election filings for Oakwood Commons since 2016. The room buzzed. Someone shouted, "She told us elections were suspended because nobody cared." I didn't stop there. I also moved to review all fines and assessments levied in the last 5 years. State law requires public hearings, written notices, and appeal processes for every single one. "Karen, where are those records?" Her face, once flushed with power, was now pale. "Those are confidential HOA matters." "Wrong again," I said, lifting a copy of the state statute. "Financial records must be made available for member inspection. Failure to do so isn't just an HOA issue. It's a violation of state law." Richard Thornton stood up. "I second the motion." Mrs. Patterson rose next. I third it. Then half the room was on its feet, and that's when I delivered the final blow. Given the serious irregularities uncovered, I moved for the immediate dissolution of the Oakwood Commons HOA. The room erupted. Some cheered, others gasped. Not a single person defended Karen. She slammed the gavel again and again. "You can't dissolve the HOA. I won't allow it." "You don't have that power," I replied calmly. "According to your own charter, dissolution requires a 2/3 vote of all members." "Shall we vote?" The tally was brutal. Out of 93 units represented, 87 voted to dissolve. 4 abstained. Only 2 opposed, Karen and her friend from Unit 8, who owed her money. As the results were read aloud, Karen's kingdom of control collapsed. She rose from her chair, trembling with fury. "This is illegal! I'll sue every one of you! You need me! Without the HOA, this place will fall apart." But no one listened. The neighbors were too busy celebrating their freedom. The legal dissolution process took a month, and in that time, even more corruption surfaced. The district attorney opened an investigation into missing funds. Karen was forced to repay $32,000 in illegal fines and unauthorized expenses. Her real estate license was suspended. She lost her job at the property management company when the scandal went public. The last time I saw her was at the final dissolution hearing. The judge confirmed the vote and officially ended the Oakwood Commons HOA. As the gavel fell, Karen let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. 8 years, she cried. "I gave 8 years to this community." The judge's reply was simple and cold. Ma'am, you gave yourself 8 years of unauthorized power. Case closed.